The champagne glass shattered against marble, and every head in that glittering naval gala turned toward the man they thought was invisible. Marcus Chen, the single father pushing a mop bucket past admirals and senators, his maintenance uniform, a ghost among tuxedos. Admiral Victoria Hastings stood at the grand piano, her medals catching chandeliers like captured stars, her laugh sharp as broken crystal when she announced the challenge that would haunt her forever. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm 43, brilliant and bored of millionaires. Whoever can sing Mozart's Queen of the Night aria in perfect pitch will win my hand in marriage. The crowd erupted in applause, cameras flashing, because this was the woman who commanded fleets, who had Congressional Medal of Honor sitting in her office like paperweights, and she was making headlines with this impossible dare. 12 men tried. A tenor from the Kennedy Center cracked on the high F. A Broadway star fumbled the German lyrics. A visiting Italian ambassador couldn't sustain the breath control, and with each failure, Victoria's smile grew wider, more untouchable, more certain that no man in that room could match her standards. Then Marcus, invisible Marcus, holding his mop like a flag of surrender, cleared his throat. "Excuse me, Admiral." His voice barely rose above the string quartet warming up. Victoria turned, her expression morphing from amusement to irritation in half a second. "The help doesn't speak unless spoken to," she said, and the room temperature dropped 10 degrees. Marcus's daughter, Sarah, watching from the service corridor where children of staff weren't supposed to be, pressed her hand against the glass, 9 years old and terrified. Her father was about to be thrown out of another job, another chance, another hope. "I'd like to try," Marcus said, and his hands were steady even though his heart was a war drum. The crowd laughed, actually laughed, because this was a man with calloused hands and a threadbare uniform, who smelled like industrial cleaner and probably couldn't read music, let alone sing the most technically demanding aria ever written for soprano. "This I have to see," Victoria said, gesturing to the piano like offering a scaffold. Marcus walked forward, and with each step the whispers grew louder. "Look at his shoes. Look at those cheap shoes." But he reached that piano, closed his eyes, and when he opened his mouth, the room stopped breathing. The first note erupted like lightning splitting a mountain, pure and crystalline and impossibly high, climbing octaves that shouldn't exist in a male voice. A countertenor so rare and perfect that even the musicians froze mid-tune. He sang in flawless German, every trill executed with surgical precision, every sustained note a miracle of control. And by the second verse, Victoria's face had drained of all color because she suddenly recognized what everyone was about to discover. Marcus Chen wasn't a janitor who could sing, he was Marcus Chen, the prodigy who'd walked away from La Scala 15 years ago when his wife died in childbirth, who chose night shifts mopping floors so he could raise Sarah alone, who traded standing ovations for bedtime stories, and let the world forget he'd once made Pavarotti weep. The final high F lasted 8 impossible seconds, and when silence crashed back into that ballroom, Victoria's metal-heavy chest was heaving like she'd run a marathon. "You're him," she whispered, loud enough for microphones to catch. "You're the Marcus Chen, the ghost of Milan." But Marcus was already walking away, back to his daughter pressed against that service corridor glass, back to the mop bucket and the life he'd chosen, leaving behind a proposal unaccepted and a room full of people finally understanding that greatness doesn't announce itself with medals and champagne. It hides in calloused hands and sacrificial love, and it only reveals itself when someone makes the fatal mistake of demanding proof.